Have you ever felt stuck, like everyone else seems to be moving forward while you're just trying to stay afloat? Do you find yourself constantly watching other people's lives, comparing yourself, questioning your own progress, wondering if you're falling behind? If so, then let me tell you something no one tells you enough. Stop looking outside. Real change starts the moment you start looking inward. I'm not here to feed you feel-good quotes. I'm here to tell you something powerful. Something that changed my life when I finally understood it. Your life doesn't change when the world changes. It changes when you do, not when they change, not when things finally go your way. It starts the moment you decide to take your attention off everyone else and focus on yourself. And if you're here, deep down, you already know this. You know that constantly looking sideways won't get you where you want to go. You know that the only person you should be measuring yourself against is you. What I'm about to share with you isn't theory. It's not abstract. These are real ideas that changed everything for me when I was completely lost. And I say that without exaggeration. I dropped out of college when I was 19. I told myself, I'm smart enough to get a job. What else do I need to learn? That decision, it was a mistake. I got married soon after, started a family, worked hard every day, and yet every year I felt more frustrated. I woke up early, stayed up late, did my best, and still nothing seemed to change. Until one day, something happened, something so small, so ordinary that it changed my entire life. A Girl Scout knocked on my door. She was selling cookies, $2 a box. She smiled, gave me her little pitch, asked me politely if I'd like to buy one. I wanted to, I really did, but I couldn't. I didn't have $2 to my name. Here I was, a grown man, a husband, a father, living in one of the wealthiest countries on earth, and I couldn't buy a box of cookies. And worse, I didn't have the courage to tell her the truth, so I lied. I told her we'd already bought plenty. She smiled, thanked me, and left. I closed the door, sat down, and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Shame, but more than that, clarity. I said to myself, I'm done living like this. That lie to a little girl was my lowest point, and it became my turning point. That was the day I decided to stop blaming and start building. I stopped waiting and started seeking. Because once you decide to look inward, you unlock the only real source of power you've ever had, you. Shortly after, I met a man who would become my mentor, Earl Schoff. And what he taught me over the course of 5 years changed everything. My mindset, my finances, my future. But none of that would have mattered if I hadn't first made the decision to stop looking outside for answers and start focusing on what I could control. So write this down. Let this be your first big lesson. Change isn't reserved for the lucky. It's reserved for the seekers, not for those who complain, not for those who wait, not for those who hope, but for those who decide to search for better ideas, better habits, better direction. And that's why I want to congratulate you for being here, for seeking, for investing your time and energy into this moment. Because this could be more than just another video. It could be a turning point in your life. There's a saying I love. Nothing is more powerful than an idea whose time has come. And maybe, just maybe, this is that moment for you. Maybe you've already gathered the first 3 numbers of the combination through books, experiences, and past lessons. And maybe this is the 4th, the final click that unlocks the door. If that happens for you, if something I say lights a spark inside you, then this moment will have been worth it. Let's keep going. After that moment with the Girl Scout and the realization that I needed to change, I learned something that became the foundation of everything that followed. Your life is shaped not by your circumstances, but by your decisions. Not by luck, not by the economy, not by who raised you or what's happening around you, but by the choices you make every single day. And here's what most people don't realize. We're constantly making decisions even when we think we're not. We decide what to eat, what to say, how to react, how to spend our time, what to believe, and who to surround ourselves with. Most of those decisions are automatic. We don't even think about them, but they're shaping our future slowly, silently, day after day. That's why I say this with full confidence. If you want a different life, you need to start making different decisions. The problem is that most people don't make decisions based on what they want. They make them based on what others expect. They ask, what will they think? Or what if they don't agree? And without realizing it, they start living someone else's life. They choose safety over growth, approval over authenticity, and comfort over purpose. But there's a cost to that, because every time you hesitate to choose what's right for you, every time you delay action to please someone else, you lose a little bit of yourself. You shrink, you feel stuck, you feel like life is passing you by, and it is. Not because you're not capable, but because you keep handing your power over to the opinions of others. That's why one of the most powerful things you can do is this: make a decision and own it. Choose your direction, choose your growth, choose to focus on yourself, even if no one claps for you, even if no one understands, even if you feel alone at first. Because the truth is, this journey is yours, not theirs. And the people who truly matter will catch up later, or you'll meet new ones along the way who are on the same path. I still remember the exact moment when I said to myself, no more excuses, no more waiting, no more needing permission. That one decision didn't solve everything overnight, but it started something. It was like planting a flag in the ground and saying, from here forward, I lead. Not the world, not luck, me. And from that day on, every small decision mattered. Waking up earlier, saying no to what didn't serve me, saying yes to new learning, walking away from environments that kept me small, choosing growth over comfort, even when it was scary. Jim Rohn used to say, it's not what happens to you that determines your life. It's what you decide to do about it. And it's true. Life will throw you curveballs. People will disappoint you. Plans will fall apart. But what makes or breaks your future is what you choose to do in response. You can't control what others do, but you can control whether you let that distract you from your path. And the more you build the habit of making bold, aligned decisions for yourself, the less you'll care about what others are doing, and the more powerful you'll feel every day. So here's what I want you to remember. Every small decision you make today is creating your future. Every time you choose growth over gossip, learning over scrolling, self-respect over approval, you're building momentum. You're taking back control, and you're telling the world, quietly but clearly, I'm focused on becoming who I was meant to be. And that's how transformation begins. Making a decision is powerful. It creates momentum. But here's the truth. A decision without discipline is just a wish. It doesn't matter how fired up you feel after watching a video, reading a book, or listening to a powerful message. What matters is what you do tomorrow. What matters is whether you show up when the excitement fades. And that's where most people fall short. And that's why the next piece in this journey is discipline. Not the harsh, rigid kind we often associate with punishment. I'm talking about the quiet, steady kind, the kind that says, I keep showing up even when I don't feel like it. Discipline is the muscle that protects your focus. It's what keeps you moving forward when life gets loud, when others doubt you, when results are slow. Without discipline, it's easy to fall back into old habits, to get pulled into distractions, to watch what others are doing and lose yourself in comparison. But with discipline, your focus becomes unshakable. You stop reacting to everything around you, and you start directing everything within you. Here's what I had to learn the hard way. Discipline isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. And the way you build it is simple. You do what you said you were going to do over and over until it becomes who you are. At first, it's uncomfortable. It feels unnatural. Your mind will resist. Your body will try to negotiate. Just skip it today. You can do it later. It's not a big deal, but that's the moment where growth lives. Not in the action itself, but in your choice to do it anyway. Because every time you follow through, you build trust in yourself. And that trust is priceless. That trust is what allows you to stay focused on your journey, even when others are louder, faster, or further ahead. You don't need to match their pace. You just need to stay on your own path consistently. Jim Rohn used to say, discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. You can have the clearest vision, the best intentions, the smartest strategies, but without the discipline to execute daily, none of it will matter. It'll just stay in your head, never becoming real. Discipline is also one of the greatest acts of self-respect. It says, I matter enough to follow through. You're not just keeping a schedule, you're keeping a promise to yourself. And the more you do that, the more power you reclaim from the outside world. Because while others are chasing validation, you're building consistency. While others are obsessed with the highlight reel, you're mastering the fundamentals. You see, people often look for motivation to stay disciplined, but it's actually the other way around. Discipline creates motivation. When you do the work, even when you don't feel like it, you gain momentum. You gain confidence. And suddenly you start feeling inspired, not because something magical happened, but because you prove to yourself that you can rely on you. That's what makes the difference. Not how you feel in the beginning, but what you choose to do in the middle. And when your days are shaped by discipline, not emotion, you become unstoppable. Not perfect, not robotic, but rooted, steady, focused. So let me ask you, what's one thing you've said you want but haven't shown up for consistently? What's one promise you've made to yourself that you've let slip? Don't judge yourself, just recommit. Because today is always a good day to start again, to rebuild trust, to say, I'm not chasing anyone. I'm not proving anything. I'm just focused on becoming who I said I'd be. That's the power of discipline. That's how you stop watching others and start building yourself. Once you've made the decision, once you've committed to discipline, there's something else you must understand. Growth doesn't just come from action, it comes from education. It comes from feeding your mind with better ideas, better questions, and better philosophies than the ones that got you stuck in the first place. That's why this next piece is so essential. Keep learning, constantly, deliberately, intentionally. One of the most powerful things I ever did for myself was to make reading a daily habit. Not just reading to pass the time, but reading to transform the way I think. Because the truth is, I wasn't struggling in life because I was lazy. I was struggling because I didn't know any better. I was operating with a mindset that wasn't designed to create success. It was designed to survive. And survival is not the same as growth. When I finally started to read consistently, books on mindset, personal development, discipline, finances, habits, everything started to shift. Not overnight, not dramatically, but slowly, deeply, and permanently. Because the more I read, the more I saw the patterns in my thinking, the more I understood why I'd been stuck, and more importantly, what I could actually do about it. Jim Rohn said it best, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Yes, sir, and I'll add this. You also become the average of the 5 books you read. So if you're not surrounding yourself with people who challenge you, at the very least, surround yourself with ideas that do. Because if you don't make the conscious decision to feed your mind, the world will do it for you. And let me be honest, the world isn't feeding you clarity, focus, and wisdom. It's feeding you noise, distraction, drama, outrage, comparison, and if you're not careful, your thinking will be shaped more by what's trending than by what's true. That's why reading is such a powerful act of self-focus, because it pulls your attention away from the chaos out there and brings it back to the growth in here, inside your own mind, inside your own life. When you read with intention, you're telling yourself, I matter enough to invest in my thinking. That message alone changes everything. And reading doesn't have to be complicated. You don't need to finish a book a week. Start small, 10 pages a day, a few minutes every morning, but make it sacred, make it consistent, because those few minutes compound. They rewire your thoughts, they reshape your standards, they remind you of who you're becoming. And here's something else. The more you grow your mind, the less you feel the need to compare. You start to realize that other people's lives aren't the blueprint. You are, that your journey is completely unique. And the more knowledge and insight you gain, the more capable you become of building a life that reflects your values, not someone else's timeline or expectations. Because let's be honest, how many times have you felt lost or insecure simply because you were measuring yourself against people you don't even know, their posts, their wins, their lifestyles? It's easy to feel behind when you don't have a strong internal compass guiding you forward. And that's what learning gives you. Clarity, direction, confidence. It builds the foundation so you stop chasing distractions and start walking your own path. Deliberately, confidently, consistently. So if there's one habit I could recommend to anyone trying to focus more on themselves, it's this. Read, learn, expand your thinking, because when your mind grows, your life does too. And when your life starts to expand, the noise out there starts to shrink. You no longer need to watch what others are doing. You're too busy learning, growing, and becoming. And that's exactly where your power lives. By now you've made a decision, you've learned the power of discipline, and you've committed to feeding your mind with better ideas. But there's something that can still sabotage all of it, something that quietly drains your progress without you even noticing, the way you use your time and your energy. Here's the truth. You can have the best mindset, the best strategies, and the clearest goals. But if your time and energy are being stolen by the wrong things, you'll stay stuck. And for most people, that's exactly what's happening. Think about it. How much of your time do you spend watching what others are doing instead of working on yourself? How many hours do you give away every week to comparison, gossip, distractions, or meaningless scrolling? And how much energy do you waste being frustrated about things you can't control? The economy, politics, other people's opinions, someone else's success. It's no wonder so many people feel exhausted but unfulfilled. They're busy all the time but not productive. They're running but they're not moving forward. And it's because they're spending their most valuable resources, time and energy, on everyone else but themselves. Jim Rohn once said, "It's easy to mistake movement for achievement." And he was right. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're building anything. Just because you're doing a lot doesn't mean you're growing. The real question is, busy with what? Busy for whom? I had to face this reality myself. Years ago, I started tracking how I spent my days. Not in theory, literally, hour by hour. And when I looked back at my notes, the truth hit me hard. I was giving away my time to things that didn't matter. Endless conversations about people who weren't paying my bills, hours of television that added nothing to my goals, days reacting to problems that weren't even mine. And then I realized something simple but life-changing. If I didn't learn to protect my time, no one else was going to do it for me. And so I started small. I cut out the things that drained me without adding value. I set boundaries with people who wanted my energy but weren't investing in their own. I replaced hours of mindless consumption with intentional learning and creating. And slowly I noticed a shift, not just in my results, but in my energy. Because here's the other side of this equation. It's not just about time, it's also about energy. You could have all the time in the world, but if you wake up every day drained, distracted, and resentful, you'll never use that time well. That's why managing your energy is just as important as managing your hours. And the fastest way to drain your energy, constantly focusing on others, comparing yourself, criticizing them, worrying about what they think, living for their approval, that mental loop is exhausting. It leaves you with no strength to focus on yourself. On the other hand, when you reclaim your energy by focusing only on what you can control, you immediately feel lighter, clearer, more powerful. It's not that life becomes easier, it's that you stop wasting strength on battles you can't win. So how do you take back control of your time and energy? Let me give you a few practical steps. Audit your time. For 1 week, write down exactly how you spend each hour of your day. Be brutally honest. At the end, highlight what truly moved you forward and what didn't. The results will shock you. Set boundaries. Learn to say no, not out of arrogance, but out of responsibility. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't matter, you're saying no to yourself, and your future self deserves better. Protect your mornings. The way you start your day shapes everything. If the first thing you do is check other people's lives, you've already lost focus. Instead, use that time to set your direction. Read, plan, exercise, reflect. Make it about you. Limit energy leaks. Pay attention to what drains you, certain people, certain habits, certain environments. Cut them out or reduce your exposure. If it doesn't help you grow, it's not worth your energy. Invest in recovery. Rest isn't weakness, it's strategy. Sleep, exercise, meditation, journaling. These are not luxuries, they're investments in your energy. And the more energy you have, the more you can achieve. When you start doing this, something powerful happens. You begin to feel in control again. You stop feeling like a victim of your schedule. You stop feeling like life is happening to you. Instead, you start to see that life is happening through you, through the way you choose to spend your time and focus your energy. And here's the biggest lesson of all. When you master your time and your energy, comparison loses its grip on you because you're too busy building your own life to watch someone else's. You're too invested in your own growth to worry about theirs. You're too focused on becoming who you're meant to be to get distracted by what they're doing. That's the power of reclaiming these two resources. Time and energy are your life. Protect them, direct them, and watch how everything begins to change. By now you understand the importance of protecting your time and your energy. But let's be honest, it's not enough to just decide to change. Good intentions fade, motivation fades, even discipline, if you don't support it, can weaken over time. That's why the next step is critical. You must build habits and design an environment that keeps you aligned, even when your willpower runs out. Because here's the truth. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. If your environment is full of distractions, if your routines are chaotic, if your habits are inconsistent, then no matter how much you want to grow, you'll keep getting pulled back into the old version of yourself. Think about it. If the first thing you see when you wake up is your phone filled with notifications, what happens? You immediately start your day focused on other people, what they're saying, what they're doing, what they think. But if instead the first thing you see is a journal on your nightstand or a book or your goals written clearly on paper, then your day begins with you. That's not an accident. That's environment design. Your habits and your surroundings send you constant signals. They either remind you of who you're becoming or they drag you back into who you used to be. That's why it's so important to create an environment that pulls you forward instead of holding you back. So how do you do that? Here are a few practical principles. Anchor new habits to existing routines. Don't wait for extra time. Instead, Attach new habits to things you already do. For example, after brushing your teeth, write one thing you're grateful for. After making coffee, read 10 pages. After exercising, review your goals. This makes habits automatic instead of optional. Remove friction. Make good habits easier and bad habits harder. If you want to read more, leave a book on your pillow. If you want to stop scrolling, delete apps from your phone or keep your device in another room at night, don't rely on willpower. Rely on structure. Design your space for growth. Surround yourself with reminders of who you're becoming. Put quotes, goals, or visual cues in places you'll see them. Keep your workspace clean so your mind stays clear. Fill your environment with things that reflect your future, not your past. Choose your circle wisely. Your environment isn't just physical, it's also relational. Jim Rohn said it best. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So ask yourself, are the people around me pulling me forward or holding me back? Surround yourself with those who challenge you to grow, not those who keep you small. Automate progress. Don't leave important things to chance. Schedule your workouts. Set reminders for your habits. Automate your savings. The less you have to decide in the moment, the easier it becomes to stay consistent. Because here's the thing, when you build the right habits in the right environment, you don't have to fight against yourself every day. Growth becomes natural. Focus becomes automatic. You no longer have to force yourself to ignore distractions. Your life is simply set up to guide you toward what matters. And when that happens, you experience something powerful. Peace. Peace because you're no longer wasting energy fighting battles with yourself. Peace because your environment supports your goals instead of sabotaging them. Peace because your habits create momentum, even when your motivation is low. This is what it really means to focus on yourself. Not just choosing yourself once, but designing a life that keeps choosing you over and over again. A life where every routine, every habit, every environment is pulling you toward the person you're meant to become. So ask yourself, what small change can I make in my habits or my environment today that will remind me to focus on me? Because sometimes it's not the big decisions that change your life. It's the small daily reminders that keep you on track. And once you start designing your world in this way, you'll find something incredible. The pull of comparison starts to disappear because your life is no longer reactive, it's intentional. You're not looking outside for direction anymore. You've built a system that keeps you looking inward. That's how you protect your growth. That's how you make focus a lifestyle, not just a temporary choice. We've come a long way in this journey. And if you've stayed with me until now, I know something about you. Deep down, you're ready. Ready to stop living distracted. Ready to stop measuring yourself against everyone else. Ready to finally focus on the one person who can truly change your life. You. Think about everything we've covered. It starts with a decision. The moment you say, enough, no more excuses, no more waiting for someone else to fix it. Then comes discipline, the bridge between your intentions and your results. Without it, nothing changes. Add to that the power of constant learning because your mind must grow before your life can. But knowledge alone isn't enough. You have to protect your 2 most precious resources, your time and your energy. Stop pouring them into things that don't matter, into comparisons that drain you, into distractions that keep you stuck. Then, build habits and design environments that pull you forward, even on the days when you don't feel like it. And when you put all of this together, decision, discipline, learning, time, energy, habits, and environment, something incredible happens. You no longer need to look outside for validation. You stop caring about what others are doing because you're too busy building your own life. You stop craving their approval because you've built trust in yourself. You stop comparing because you finally understand you're not in competition with anyone else. The only race that matters is the one you're running against yesterday's version of you. That's it. And every day you choose to focus on yourself. You take the lead, step by step, choice by choice, habit by habit. So here's my challenge to you. Don't just listen to these words, live them. Starting today, make a decision that pulls you closer to the person you want to be. Build the discipline to keep going, even when it's hard. Feed your mind daily. Protect your time and your energy like treasures. Shape your habits and environment so they work for you, not against you. And then watch what happens. Watch how your confidence grows. Watch how the comparisons fade. Watch how your life begins to expand in ways you couldn't imagine simply because you finally chose to focus on yourself. Remember this, your life will never be defined by what others do. It will be defined by what you choose to do. So stop looking sideways. Stop wasting energy on things you can't control. Stop trying to live someone else's story. This is your story, and the pen has always been in your hand. Now it's time to write the next chapter. Not by focusing on them, not by waiting for the world, but by finally, fully focusing on you. Because the moment you do, everything changes.